I have just visited the soldiers which are conducting the exercise of the very high readiness joint task force, or the spearhead force of NATO. And I'm impressed by what I have seen. I have seen soldiers from 9 different nations acting as one, and showing that NATO is able to provide the readiness and the preparedness which we need in a new and more challenging security environment. I have seen highly professional soldiers from different nations working together, and this is, as you know, the first time the spearhead force is deployed on an exercise in another country, as the exercise which is taking place in Poland now is. And it is important that we have these kind of forces because NATO is facing a new security environment, both caused by violence, turmoil, instability in the south, ISIL in Iraq, Syria, North Africa, but also caused by the behavior of a more assertive Russia, which has used force to change borders, to annex Crimea, and to destabilize eastern Ukraine. And therefore NATO has to respond. We are responding, and we are doing so by implementing the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense since the end of the Cold War. And the spearhead force is a key element of this reinforcement, and it's great to see that it's functional and that it's exercising here in Poland. I think I will stop there and then answer your questions.
General, since Sunday it seems to be clear that the US plan to deploy heavy arms, heavy weapons in Eastern European countries. What is your opinion on that? Does that stabilize or destabilize the situation? I mean, since yesterday we do have the first reaction of President Putin.
So pre-positioning is part of the Readiness Action Plan, which NATO decided last year, and we are going to address the question of pre-positioning at our defense ministerial meeting next week. So that is an issue we're going to discuss, to address, and I welcome all efforts by all allies to protect each other, because the core task of NATO is to protect and defend all allies against any threat. And we need to be able to have the right forces in the right place at the right time. And the question of pre-positioning is one element of this, which we are going to then work on and to address when we now are step by step implementing the Readiness Action Plan of NATO.
Is that in line with the founding act signed with Russia?
Everything we do is defensive, it's proportionate, and it's full in line with our international commitments. Pre-positioning will not violate any of our international commitments, and therefore we will discuss the question of pre-positioning. I'm not saying that we will make any decisions next week, but I'm saying that this is one of the elements in the broad approach we now have, aiming at increasing the readiness and the preparedness of our forces. Let me just underline that the spearhead force of the Very High Readiness Joint Task Force is an important element. It's a brigade-sized force, and we have now established the land element. But we will also go further and address, for instance, sea and air and special operation forces. We are also increasing the size of the NATO response force, We are doubling the size of the NATO response force from 13,000 to more than 30,000. And in addition to that, we are also now establishing small headquarters in Poland, in the three Baltic countries, Romania and Bulgaria. So this is broad. This is part of a broad approach, a plan, the Readiness Action Plan, which is increasing the readiness and the preparedness of our forces.
Last question, NPR.
Hi. Terry Schultz with NPR and CBS. As my colleague mentioned, President Putin has responded by saying he's going to add nuclear ballistic missiles to the arsenal, and even today Estonia and Latvia have reported that Russian planes have been buzzing their airspace like they do so frequently. So do you think that this operation, that the spearhead force, that any of this is really a deterrent to President Putin? It seems that he's just escalating alongside what you say are defensive measures. Is this really making the situation any more safe for anyone?
I think if NATO hadn't reacted at all, I think that would have been a cause of criticism. Because NATO is today able to defend and protect all allies, but we have to keep NATO strong, so we are sure that we can also do that in the future. And when we see over a long period of time, over many years, that Russia is increasing its defense spending, it's modernizing its armed forces, is conducting a lot of exercises, including more and more SNAP exercises. And SNAP exercises is something which Russia has used as a disguise for instance, annexing Crimea or supporting the separatists, moving forces into eastern Ukraine. And the SNAP exercises is therefore completely undermining predictability and transparency related to exercises. And in addition to this, they have over a long period of time also invested heavily in nuclear forces, in more exercises, new capabilities, and also using a nuclear rhetoric as part of their defense posture. All of this, and also the announcement then yesterday that they're going to deploy more nuclear forces, is just part of a broad pattern which we have seen developing over a long period of years, requires that NATO is responding. We are not doing SNAP exercises. All our exercises are transparent. They are published on our website, and we invite inspectors to inspect them, to observe them when that's required. And the size of our spearhead force is 5,000, approximately 5,000 brigade-sized force, while Russia has conducted SNAP exercises with the forces of around 80,000. So there can be no doubt that what we are doing is defensive, it's proportionate, and it's fully in line with our international obligations. And if we hadn't reacted, if NATO hadn't increased the readiness and the preparedness of our forces, then I think there was reason for criticism. But what we are doing now is reasonable and proportionate and defensive.
Thank you. I don't want to add to any criticism, but at the Wrocław Global Forum, the members of the Atlantic Council also spoke about delivery of heavy weapons by the US to Western Ukraine. So if you add up everything you have mentioned that has been done, all the measures that are done, and add up what has been done by the US, isn't that actually forming an escalation instead of a de-escalation? So what could be the way out of this?
NATO does not seek confrontation with Russia. Actually, we continue to strive for a more cooperative and constructive relationship with Russia. And we don't seek a new arms race. Actually, we are implementing and the agreements we have. Also, for instance, the agreement on conventional forces in Europe is respected by NATO allies. It's Russia that has withdrawn from the Treaty on Conventional Forces in Europe. They did so several years ago. And recently they also withdrew from the group where we are doing, where we consult with the different nations within this framework. So Russia is actually undermining the treaties we have had in place for several years, which are important for arms control. So we don't seek confrontation. We seek and strive for a more cooperative relationship. But the precondition for that is that Russia is respecting the borders of its neighbors and the fundamental rules which has been so important for peace and stability in Europe for many years. For me, there is no contradiction between defense and dialogue. Actually, I believe that strong defense, firm policies, predictability is important as a foundation for political dialogue. And NATO will continue to strive for dialogue, for cooperation, but that cannot be based on weakness or uncertainty. It has to be certain that we are able to defend and protect all allies. Based on that, we can engage with Russia in political dialogue, trying to reduce tensions and avoid an arms race.